Ladies and gentlemen, you all know the definition of a Zionist. A Zionist is a Jew who takes money from a second Jew in order to send a third Jew in Israel. I am a Zionist, so this is exactly my dream tonight. I am what we call here an Ole Chadash, which means a new immigrant in Israel. 6 months ago, I received my Teudat Zehu, my ID, and this day I live in El Al Plains between France and Israel. I believe it is very crucial to explain to the leader of the most important Jewish community about the situation of the French Jews. We often hear inaccurate things about the situation. A situation is very complex and mostly paradoxical. While I will try to explain you the issue and the reason we need absolutely your help today. In France, there are 500,000 Jews. Half of them have some regular connection with Jewish community life, and 1/3 goes to the shul at least on Yom Kippur. Jewish life is rich. For example, only in Marseille, there are 61 kosher restaurants. The hardcore of active members counts 120,000 people, religious and not religious. But it means that the Aliyah issue, that we will talk about later, over these past 2 years, represented more than 10% of the heart of the active members of the community. 1/3 of the French Jewish children go to the Jewish school. We are facing during the last decade tragic and unprecedented terrorist acts. Ilan Halimi, 10 years ago. He was tortured by a barbarian gang who claimed that he is Jew, so he must to be rich. Toulouse massacre with 4 dead inside Jewish school, among them 3 children. We have heard 2 years ago in the street in Paris words we never thought it would be possible after World War II and the Shoah. Hyper Cacher massacre at the same time as Charlie Hebdo. 4 people were killed when they were buying food for Shabbos, and more than 30 were saved by the police force. Jews are also very anxious about the rise of the Front National extreme right party. Front National is a racist and anti-Semitic party. Jewish life is also becoming more difficult. There is criticism against the Brit Milah, against kosher food. Why? Because of the confusion and amalgam people often make with Islamic religion problems. This is the bad hand. But there is also a good hand. The link between the Jews and the France is a strong link. France is the first state we give freedom to the Jews. It's the state of human rights. And we have now the friendliest president to the Jewish community forever, François Hollande. And we can also hear the speech of Manuel Valls, the Prime Minister of France.
Les Juifs sont encore et toujours pris pour cible, victimes d'un antisémitisme virulent qui se dissimule derrière la haine d'Israël et derrière l'antisionisme.
Manuel Valls is a true friend of the Jewish community. And the government do a lot of things to protect the Jews in France. It's protecting by putting army guards in front of the schools and the Jewish institutions. This is necessary, but unfortunately difficult to see and to live with for the parents and for the children when they go day by day to the school. So the young people want to leave France, Jews, But they don't know if it will be for Hong Kong, Montreal, or Tel Aviv. A lot of Jewish people say that they are physically in danger in France. 43% of them said that they are physically attacked. And in proportion, there are 20 times more aggressive acts against Jews than against the Muslims. That explains the high numbers who are considering leaving France. And we can see now the number of the Aliyah. And the last 2 years, the Aliyah from France was 24% and 27% of all the Aliyah in Israel. You can see the details, and you see the French Aliyah is the first in Israel. And if we do a comparison with American Jewish community, in proportionally of the population, the French Aliyah is 30 times bigger than the American one. So you can ask, why Qualita? We see the vision of Qualita. We are sure that the French Aliyah is a chance for the state of Israel. And we want their integration to be a success and avoid the Yerida, going back. So, Qualita means integration plus quality equals Qualita. One of the problems of the French-speaking community in Israel is that it's divided into dozens of associations in contrary to the American community that have the great Nefesh. The Nefesh, not to mention the Russian community, of course. So when the French community speaks to the government, it's a balagan, and the results are catastrophic. The drawing says it at all. It was before Qualita. You see, a lot of people who speak for French people. Qualita was formed as an umbrella. It's important what I explained. I am sure you have to understand. An umbrella for all the associations in France and in Israel, almost 30 associations who are working for years in the fields to help the All-In in their integration. What this umbrella achieved in the last 6 months? We have accomplished the fact that there is a big public buzz around the French Aliyah problem. We have met several times the representative of several ministries, education, integration, Aliyah, Nathan Sharansky from the Jewish Agency with our partner in order to promote action plans. We already have a symbolic but important victory with the diploma recognition of the French dentist, so they can practice in Israel now without taking state exams. Thank you, Eli Elalouf. This is the Qualita plan we prepared for the government in order to be able to receive 50,000 Olim from France over the next 3 years, 50,000. At this point of the evening, you understand why part of the French Jews decide to leave France. And if they leave, why we would like them to come to Israel. But I have a small question. Perhaps I ask this question to the Qualita CEO, Michael Ben-Sadoun. Sure. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening.
Why do we need to support them and all their obsession and invest money in them?
Thank you for asking, Marc. Well, as we all know, immigration is not an easy process, and we must do everything so the immigrants can stay in Israel and give their very best to the state of Israel. French immigrants need support in 3 areas. First of all, employment. They need the right guidance and professional training to rebuild their career and find decent jobs in Israel. 2, education. It's very tough for young immigrants to adapt to the Israeli system and learn Hebrew fast. We must help them study Hebrew and realize their potential here in Israel. 3, welfare. it is our duty to support the immigrants who come to Israel without financial means, and there are 20% of them. They are struggling financially, at least for 1 year, until they find a job. So Marc, it's now my turn to ask you a question. Why do you think American Jews should support French immigrants? Isn't it the duty of the French Jewish community?
The French community alone cannot support the needs of the French Olim. Today, it can hardly support the basic needs of their own institution in France because of main donors have left France for tax reasons after the victory of the socialist president François Hollande. And also the economic crisis is impacting the Jewish community, and we see more and more poor Jews in France that we need to help. I think there is also religious obligation. You know, in the Bible, there is the first Zionist message when God said to Abraham to do his aliyah. Lech lecha me'artzecha moladecha u'mibet avicha. Leave your country and your family to go to Israel. And after this, what God said to Abraham, and if you do your aliyah, I give you some blessing. You will be a big people. Va'avarechecha va'gadla shemecha. You have good reputation. Va'avarechecha, I bless to you. And Rashi said, in money, in the maimon. As I think, if Avraham Avinu, who is a tzaddik, our father, virtuous man, need the help of a Kadosh Baruch Hu who promised him money to go to Israel, the French Olim know there are no tzaddikim. I know I am one of them. We need also help and help of money. So, Michael, how much money do we need?
Okay, we need to raise $97 million for 3 years, which is approximately 32 million a year.
It's a lot of money, no?
Well, I don't think so. When you know that only the French retired who invest their pensions in Israel bring more than $40 million a year, and that for a period of 15 years. If you add to that the jobs created by immigrants, the entrepreneurship, and the tourism generated, I think the return of investment is just excellent for Israel. So I don't think it's a lot.
And what would you say, the comparison with...
Yes, you remember everything. We only ask for $1,940 per ole. And it's not a lot. Nefesh Benefesh, a super professional organization for American Olim, invests $3,300 per ole. So we'll ask for less.
And you want to ask $97 million of our friends here in this room?
No worries, not at all. The government will finance 75%, but they will do so if we find 25%. So we only need to raise $8 million a year for 3 years, 24 million total. On this point, Marc, I think you have a good news to share with our American friends, right?
Absolutely. I would like to thank my friends, Rebecca and Sidney Boukris from the Adelis Foundation, Laurent Levy, Optical Center, the first donor to Qualita, Sam and Jimmy Pinto, Rashi Foundation, Patrick Drahi, Simon Azoulay, Tony Elisha, who commit to give $4 million a year for 3 years for this plan, together with me, of course.
So, Marc, if I understand correctly, let me summarize. We ask our American friends to match us with $4 million a year for 3 years, right?
Right, absolutely. And we would like to offer naming opportunities for different concrete projects we are currently developing. You will find more details in the brochure we prepared for you. And I can stay 1 hour to give you details about the project. You are lucky I have not the permission. But the staff of Qualita is here tonight and can answer any of your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience.